and paste it in this region, labeling it Linux CBT Serv 1. Both servers need to have this pointer in order to be able to find the repository, and its IP needs to be updated. So let's take this, and in the interim, while the packages are being scanned, let's paste it into both servers' configuration. So that's roughly a fourth, and let's find a root shell where we can update the config. This is on serv 2, so let's modify etc yum repos.d, and this is going to be Linux CBT serv 1.repo with the following settings. And that's intact. Now on the remote side, Linux CBT serv 1 will do the same. etc yum repos and serv 1. And now that's intact. So both have both repos. You can always yum repo list to see what's defined. And this will show the various repos. And it reads config error, probably the space. Let's take a look that we neglected to take off. Let's nano it. And 168.75.20. Or it could be that it's not accessible because we haven't started. Let's do a psef grep http. Nothing. Let's do a service httpd start and see if it'll find it with the spaces. That could be the problem, and it doesn't appear to be. So let's nano etc yum repos.d Linux CBT serv 1, and let's remove the spaces, the leading spaces. It should be able to parse beyond that, but apparently not. So let's see what we've got here. Now it works. So that means we should fix the config on the remote side as well, removing the 3 leading spaces. And let's yum repo list on this one as well, and it should show both. So this is now in place. It's able to query. Now of course it threw an error not being able to find the repo md.xml from Linux CBT serv 1 because it's still being built. The files have not yet been finished, and that's why the XML have not yet been queried. That's why the XML file is not in place. So that'll come up next time we do it. And of course now we can install packages from either. So let's yum erase from this system DOS to Unix, Unix to DOS. This will remove both. You also have the ability with yum to determine which server is to be used as the repository server of choice. If you yum help, for example, you'll see the ability to enable or disable repositories. So you can enable repo and its name, or disable repo, and it supports wildcards. That way you can force precedence. Let's take a look to see where we are, and this is almost finished. And the files will be created shortly thereafter, and we'll have repositories in both regards. Let's search on this end. Let's do an RPM query all grep DOS to Unix to see if it's installed. It isn't by default, so we shouldn't expect it to be there. And ditto Unix to DOS. Neither. Now the test for us will come when we disable one of the repo servers to see whether or not it uses the other. Yum, that is. Either Yum client uses the other to find the package that we'd like to have it install. So again, our test package will be DOS packages, DOS to Unix and Unix to DOS. So now the files are in place. Let's see if the repo list option will come up properly this time. And let's see, repo data, repo md.xml. Let's take a look to see why it doesn't like it. That should be RHEL-6 repo data. And let's see. So maybe it's just an old instance of it not being able to get it. Let's psef grep to make sure HTTP is running, and let's try it again. It could be cached. And it's still throwing an error. So it could be just a cache error that's causing it to not find the file, because the file is there. If we did a which wget, for example, let's wget that path, and we'll copy this link. And without the colon, and it doesn't know where to find .20. So there's a problem talking to .20 on port 80. Let's take a look at the IP table's configuration. It's probably firewall blocked. So IP tables lists, although we're not ready to look at it, and that's where the problem is. So it is not accepting port 80, and that's why we see the problem. So the system config utility could help us out in this particular area. Let's tell it to disable the firewall for now. And then this should fix matters. So wget was our quick test. Now it's worked. So that means repo lists will work. And now it's working. It's querying serve1. And let's also run that locally as well. So yum repo list. And indeed it's querying it. So now it knows about the 2679 packages on both servers. So luckily we did that step to figure things out. And now that that's the case, let's stop Apache on Linux CBT Serve 2 using service httpd stop. This will stop Apache. Now let's, once it's stopped, try to install a package using yum. So we'll wait for this to stop. In fact, we'll confirm that it's stopped using netstat, because sometimes when you instruct a process to stop, it returns an exit status 0, but it hasn't really stopped. So let's netstat in at NTLP or NTL grep 80, and port 80 is not available. PSEF grep httpd, nothing. So now we know it's stopped. Let's yum install DOS to Unix. So this will search through our repositories and notice that it still found the package. And it's going to pull it from Linux CBT Serve 1. So we'll tell it yes, and it will get the package. And on the remote side, let's yum install both packages. And this will install both packages, assuming yes, pulling them from the appropriate server. And if you check your netstat once the process is complete with an ANT, you may catch a glimpse or a trace of a stale TCP connection. Here we see the connection from 21, which is serve 2 to 20, and from 20, which is our local system, to 20. So this is proof that both systems connected to port 80 to perform their yum installations. So just like that it works, and if we enable Apache, let's service httpd start and disable Apache on the remote side using service httpd stop. This stops it on this side. Let's netstat ANT grep 80 to be sure that there's no port 80 trace. Those are just old sessions. Port 80 is not listening, and PSEF grep http shows nothing. And then let's remove and reinstall both packages. So let's yum erase DOS to Unix, and we'll confirm this. And then yum install DOS to Unix, Unix to DOS. That will install both packages from the available server. It's waiting for the yum process to time out, and then it'll install it. And ditto on this side. Let's yum erase both packages, followed by a yum install both packages. And this should get us going momentarily. And indeed, both packages have been removed, and now both packages will be installed. So either repository will become available, and we'll be able to install. Now let's take a look here, 7520, and it was unable to get to 7520 to get the RPM. Let's take a look to see why that's possibly the case. We'll IP tables list again, and let's try to wget that path. So let's copy link address. So that means Apache isn't running. We didn't restart it. Service httpd start. Now it's started. So that means our command will work. So we'll take off the erase, and just do an installation. The erase doesn't need to consult the server. It's just an install which pulls the package from the server, which is why it failed. And how about on this side? It failed as well because Apache wasn't running. So let's reinstall it. And now it's working. So we've tested things out. Both are in place. Let's just note 8. Test Yum redundancy by enabling, disabling HTTPD or Apache on both systems and installing, uninstalling packages. And it's worked. So this is how you use Yum. So we've covered setting up a repository as well as setting our clients to be, or our servers to be clients of each server for redundancy. And Yum is the way you should manage packages on your system. Now there's still another package management tool, that's the GUI utility, which doesn't provide as many features, but nonetheless is there and provides things graphically. But we've looked at RPM and Yum thus far.